I just want to welcome everybody to our webinar with Five Rivers Cattle Feeding. We're very excited to have you all here with us today. And for those of you that will watch later, we are excited to be able to share information about this great organization with you. So we'll just go ahead and get started. And I'll just ask our presenters to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do at Five Rivers.
My name's Drew Brown. I'm the Assistant General Manager at Grant County Feeders. That job involves operational leadership on a day-to-day basis, as well as some procurement responsibilities.
I'm Matt Schweer. I'm Director of Talent Organizational Development at Five Rivers Cattle Feeding, work in our corporate office in Johnstown, Colorado. And so oversee most of our recruiting and talent acquisition in terms of finding people to come to work with Five Rivers, and then our organizational and leadership development that we do, supporting our folks as they develop themselves in career opportunities and promote themselves through the company.
Great, thank you. So tell us from your perspective about the culture at Five Rivers.
Culture at Five Rivers. So a little bit of background. I'm a WT graduate, graduated in 2012, started with the company, and Grant County is actually the fourth feed yard that I've worked at in different capacities at each one. Excuse me. So I feel like I have a decent grasp upon the culture across the company as well as yard to yard. And I would say that it is a high level of ownership. If you're looking for a place to go hide, this isn't the place to come hide. If you want something that you can come in and take the bull by the horns and get after it, then this is an opportunity that can do that. You know, we have vets and nutritionists and all those things that every other feed yard in the world's going to have. But the input that you're allowed to give and the feedback and the questions that you can ask, it's very much, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm seeing, what are your thoughts and guidelines based upon this? And not as much just a, hey, here's a set of guidelines, get it done type thing. So I think there's a lot of ownership given in that aspect that allows people to think and be a bigger part of the team other than just executing a to-do list on a day-to-day basis. The people within the organization are as humble as they come. It is people from all aspects and walks and backgrounds of life that said, you know what, I love production agriculture and I want to come be a part of that. And that's what drew them there. And now they are there to teach and develop and bring people in and train them in everything that they got to learn growing up.
That's great. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, in simplicity, I think what Drew said last, we use the words hungry, humble, and smart, and people with grit and work ethic. So it's whereas production as production gets, and I think at the end of the day, people that just have that work ethic and want to get in and learn and grow with the company, that's what our culture is all about. Drew kind of gave it in his introduction. A lot of our people come in as a trainee, fresh out of college, early in their careers, and we provide a career pathway that allows people to promote and grow within the company. We very seldomly look external outside the company for bringing people into leadership and management roles, but really want to grow people from within and give them an opportunity. That's culturally who we are, people who want to have a career in a company where they can grow and develop and mature in those leadership positions. That's what we try to build our system and who we are around.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the current environment. We are recording this on May 26, 2020. So for those of you who are watching it much later, I hope that things have changed and gotten much better in the world. But I just want to start by asking you guys to tell us about the current situation for Five Rivers due to COVID-19, the pandemic, and also the resulting economic impacts of that. Like, how has that affected your company?
Being production agriculture, I think it's made us very cautious, would be the word I would use. On a day-to-day basis, all of us have asked to social distance and make sure that we're taking care of our team, and in that be able to take care of the cattle. If it's crazy, but I'm a good example of this today. I got quarantined because I got exposed. If one person in the team gets exposed, one feed truck driver, and he comes to work and he exposes the other 5 feed truck drivers, then all of them are going home, and now we have to find 5 new people to train in that job and be able to get it done. We don't get to just say, well, everybody go home for 2 weeks and we'll start over. So I think it's made us very aware of what's going on, and we ask people to be very cautious and cognizant of who they're around and the environments that they're in, and think of their team and the industry as they go through their day-to-day operations and day-to-day life.
Yeah, we implemented, some restrictions as far as travel and vacation and stuff like that, and just have taken precautions to try to minimize people's exposure because, of the impact when one person gets exposed, what happens there. And then, we've done, to Drew's point there, we've done a lot of cross training. So we've had people from different departments in different roles cross train in other departments and other roles, so that if we need to backfill some positions and be able to accommodate people potentially having to be quarantined or at home if they've been exposed, then we had backup plans in place. And so, and then I think from an economic standpoint, I mean, there's been impacts to the beef industry and beef market, and we've seen impacts to our ability at times to be able to buy cattle. And there's been impacts from the plant side and being able to harvest cattle. And so that's naturally had an impact on us as well. And so it's, our hope is to not be reactive to all of this, but we've got to be proactive in the moment in terms of being able to adjust on the fly as things have happened, whether it's been governmental regulations or just internally the restrictions that we've put in place to help us navigate through this time and A, keep our people healthy, and B, keep cattle fed and keep the business running and moving.
Well, in our office in career services, we are all about helping students to find jobs and really achieve their goals. And so we are seeing some of our students that are seeking jobs or internships right now. They're finding that the company that they really want to work for is not hiring. So as our students apply for positions at various companies, they may not be hearing back from employers right now. And in normal times, that would likely be an indication that the employer was maybe just not interested. But during these tough economic times, the story could be very different. So could you describe, Matt, I think this would be a good question for you. Could you just describe the environment from the HR perspective during this pandemic?
Yeah. So, I mean, to be all honest, we're still production agriculture. We still have to work 365 days out of the year, and we've got to keep teams going day in and day out to feed the cattle that we have at each of our operations. And so from our standpoint, we continue to seek candidates for different positions, from hourly frontline positions to management positions. I will tell you in this time, right, we're really selective. Not that we're not always, but we're being really selective because we don't necessarily have a huge demand for hiring right now. But we do continue based on what our cattle feeding occupancy is. We're trying to keep our budgeted head counts in correlation with that. And so as we need positions filled, we're seeking candidates to fill those positions. And, we continue to look for quality candidates. And so, we're past the time frame in terms of interns for this year. For 2020, we have a little over 20 interns that have joined us and are joining us in the near future and going to be on staff at Five Rivers this summer for a 10-week internship. We've got some students that are coming this fall for fall semester internships as well. And so, our typical program is a summer program, which will roll forward to 2021. But as far as graduates that we look to hire into our feed yard trainee program, we're still looking for candidates for that and considering candidates. I do think the process is probably for sure slower. And I would encourage students that if they're not getting immediate callbacks in responses at this point, I think things have slowed a lot. And I think it's kind of that standpoint. People are being very selective and really looking at applications. And in our terms, we still typically try to do either a phone interview or a Teams video interview as an initial follow-up and see what we think of candidates, and then move forward in the process from there. But we've definitely transitioned differently. We're doing a lot more video interviews than we have previously. We like to get face-to-face with people, but we don't move to that step until we're kind of to the final interview and really looking at potentially bringing a candidate on board. But I would encourage candidates, whether they're graduating now or future for internship or that, just to remain positive. And as things continue to transition here and open up a little bit, there's going to be more doors are going to open and more opportunities are going to present themselves, and to be available to those opportunities.
That's great advice. So if our students like need a job, they need to pay rent, they've just graduated, they really want to work for Five Rivers, but hiring slowed a little bit. Do you think it looks bad on a resume for a student to take a job that maybe doesn't require a degree or isn't as impressive as maybe they hoped they would be starting as they graduate college, if they later want to pursue employment with your company? How does that look to you?
Yeah. So, it's honestly, in this point, we've had more opportunities and brought actually some graduates into it's a little different than our 10-week summer internship, but we brought some graduates into a 90 to 120 day internship. So it is a temporary job with no guaranteed full-time employment, but if the internship goes well, and it's a little bit to let the intern or the candidate explore working for us, and it gives us an opportunity to have a 90 to 120 day job interview with them. But we've had more students that are more interested or more willing to do that than in the past. So we do provide that internship opportunity that could lead to potential full-time employment opportunity. We've also encouraged some of the students that have looked at opportunities with us, if they'd be willing to start out in really a frontline hourly role, more of a production hourly role versus a management, so a more technical role, I guess, if you will, versus a management role, with the opportunity that when we have more opportunities open up, that they can transition into that full-time opportunity as well. And so I would encourage, especially in these times and unemployment where it is, and the impact that this has had in the current situation, for students to be more open-minded and be willing to pursue some opportunities where there's more technical training and opportunities to advance their skill set and learn on the job some technical roles and responsibilities. And then as things open up, with the opportunity to transition and look at something maybe more specific to what they're wanting to do. So, and that's kind of how we've approached it internally with our company, that they may be able to start out in that more production frontline hourly role, with an opportunity to transition into management roles as those become available.
That's good. Okay. And so, Drew, I'll ask you this one. How would you coach a student if they've recently been laid off from their job? Because we've had a lot of students that are working part-time. And so just from your perspective, any advice you might give our students if they have just faced a layoff?
I think with anything in life, you have to take things as an opportunity and not as a discouragement. So if you've been laid off, then it's an opportunity for you to either go find something that fits you better or continue to pursue something else. I think you have to look at, was that a job that was your career that you want to continue to pursue and be a part of? The oil field is what comes to mind. If that's what really was your passion and you got laid off, then yeah, you need to go find something right now that's going to temporarily provide for your needs and keep you paying your bills and taking care of yourself, and then begin to apply for things as the job market opens back up, and hopefully you find some footing and some tenure in your position, so that as things progress, hopefully it doesn't happen to you again in your career.
Thank you. So you mentioned that you're still hiring for positions at Five Rivers, for the management training positions and so forth. But I would like for you all to give our students who are watching the specific instructions as far as seeking employment. So if I'd like to apply for a position at Five Rivers, do I go onto your website? Could you give us some insight just about the nuts and bolts of how to apply?
Yeah, so the easiest process is to go online. We've still got, in a rough, I'm just approximate numbers, we've got about 40 positions, I think, posted across the company, and in a full range of positions across all of our 4 different departments at the feed yards. But if they go online, fiveriverscattle.com, They can find from our careers tab. There's a careers listing, and go to our careers posting, and all of those positions are listed there, and they can sort them by location. So we've got 11 feed yard locations across 6 states. And so they can sort by location, or they can sort by hourly positions, salaried positions, which are management positions, and explore those opportunities. And then the easiest process is to make application online. They can also visit our locations, and all of our general managers' contacts are at each of those locations. And if they want to specifically inquire or have follow-up questions to a location, they can reach out via that way as well. And we have a careers at 5rcattle.com careers email that people can inquire and send emails as well for follow-up information as well.
Okay. And so if a candidate's applied and they haven't heard anything, do you encourage them to follow up on their application? And how would you coach them to do that? Like email, phone call? Is an in-person visit, is that something that you appreciate?
Yeah, mostly in this case, we've encouraged people to just connect via email or phone call. And then as I shared, kind of as we get through the process, I mean, if they're local and close by to one of our locations, we're still allowing people to come in and make application at our locations. But typically we like the initial email or phone call. And then if we move forward in the process, then we invite them for an on-site interview with the management team.
Great. Okay, so what are you looking for on a candidate's resume or their application?
I would say job history would be one of the biggest ones. I know in college you are gaining experience and you're doing some different things, and so maybe you do have a couple of different jobs, but the less jobs you can have in a time period, I think that's better off, because it shows me you're consistent in what you're wanting to do and in your progression towards the future. If you've worked at 4 different places in the last 6 months, then the likelihood of you being successful with me, you're going to get bored in 4 to 6 months and want to do something else. That to me is more important than any kind of experience. I guess if you can have both experience and consistency on your resume, that would be the best thing, because that proves you want to work in our industry and you're consistent enough to be here in a year or 2 years down the road. After that, I think it's a little bit different from person to person and based upon your where you're at in life. Are you married? Are you just graduating from college by yourself and you're just getting started? If you are just getting started out, then I want to know that you were involved in the different things that you could be involved in, and were you trying to lead in those different things? If you were just there to suck the fun out of it and go on, then are you going to come suck the fun out of where we're at and go on? But if you're there to add value in whatever whatever activities you participate in, then that's great. I would assume that you would come to Five Rivers and do the same thing. Come add value and be a part of the team and contribute on a day-to-day basis. The activities that you do, to me, are not as important as that you are participating and are bettering yourself to be ready for the future.
Thank you.
I think the only thing that I'd add is Drew hit on kind of the job history and things like that. I think with any of these candidates, whether interns that are still in their college career or our trainee program where people are coming out of college or a few years into their career and they're looking to make a transition and looking at our trainee program or even management as they come into some positions possibly, is passion. I think we look for passion. There's fewer and few students that are growing up in production ag these days that have the background. I grew up on a farm or a ranch, or I grew up around cattle and doing things like that. So what I think we're really trying to look for and find out is what connects them to Five Rivers, and where did their passion come from? Did they grow up around it? Is there something they did in their college career? Did they get into an FFA or 4-H program and got connected in the beef industry? Where did they acquire their passion for the cattle feeding industry? Because I think from Drew and I's standpoint, or anybody in Five Rivers, he said it a little bit, you got to have a passion for this industry. We work hard. We work 365 days out of the year. That doesn't mean every employee works every day of the year, but we don't take a day off to say, well, we don't need to feed cattle today. Cattle need fed every day. And so we got to have a team that shows up every day, and we got to have a team that's willing to get the job done. And so when you have that passion, you can get through the easy days easy, but when there's the hard days, a mill breaks down or something happens and we got a long day and it's 12 or 14 or 16 hours because we still got to get cattle fed, do you have that passion that's going to override, I had to work a 16-hour day today? We don't want that to happen often, but there's times it happens because of the business that we work in. And so have you created, developed, acquired the passion that it takes to be in this industry? And I think, that's first and foremost one of the things that we look for. And then just that grit, and we talked about grit and humble and hungry and smart and things like that just help you drive through and want to help you learn and help you grow in the industry.
So good. Okay, so different employers feel differently about this. So I wanted to ask, does it look bad to you if a student applies for more than one opening in your company? So I don't know if they're allowed to do that, but just wanted to get your perspective. If let's say you've got several different openings for a management trainee at different yards or something like that, do you want them to just pick one opportunity and apply for that, or do you encourage them to apply for multiple?
So Drew, you feel free to add, but I will add. I'll be honest here. I do have a pet peeve in this, and so I'm going to be honest and I'm going to share it. It's not to take anything away from these young people and early in their careers, but one of my pet peeves is a person who will apply for a trainee program, which is an entry-level management program to our company, and then all of a sudden they apply to an assistant general manager position at one of our feed yards. And while I love their drive and their passion to want to get to a high level of leadership in our company, I also want to, I'd take a moment to remind students to consider where you're starting in the company and the foundation we do. The reason we have a trainee program is not really to put you at the bottom of the totem pole in management, but it's twofold. The reasons we created a trainee program is, one, for people to move around our yard in different departments and learn the system, structure, process of how we do things in that department. That's one thing we want them to accomplish, is just get a good foundation of how things work in our feed yards. The second thing is we want them to build a relationship with all the people that they get to work with. And what we find is people that have that drive and ambition, when they start there, they learn that foundation quickly. They're good at building relationships, and then they can advance and grow in the company kind of at a driven pace, as long as, depending on opportunities coming available to them and that. But a little pet peeve of mine is thinking that all these, and it goes back to the culture of our company. The culture of our company is to grow people and develop them in. And so thinking somebody that's just coming out of college and wanting to start in our company, they're like, I want to be the AGM at that feed yard. They want to bypass about 20 other people to get there, and yet haven't built that foundation and built that relationship with the people. And so just today, to remind people to be patient and learn that foundation, no matter what company you go to, the technical side of things, build the relationship with the people, and the positions and the titles, they'll come if they have that drive and the ability and the capacity to grow in the company. Those things will come to them if they're willing to be a little patient. So specifically to your question, I don't mind if they apply for the feed yard trainee at multiple locations, or even they've grown up around cattle all their life and they feel like they're qualified for an assistant department position. That's fine. Just keep a perspective of maybe what level of position you think you're qualified for or ready to come into the company, and keep a perspective there. Because I think from our standpoint, it's interesting when somebody says, well, I'm willing to be a pin rider, I'm willing to be an FT, or I want to be an AGM in the company. And there's this big spread in roles and responsibilities in each of those and what that looks like.
Yeah,
Drew,
I think the consistency would be the thing, is what different positions are you applying for, and can you target them to be kind of area specific? And then, if you put a cover letter in there that states, hey, these are my experiences, this is where I'm at, I really want to get into the feed yard and I'm looking for an opportunity, and maybe you applied for the FT in the cattle department and the cattle manager, but maybe in your cover letter you put in there, I realize this is an entry level and I may not have the experience to be a assistant cattle manager now, but I see that as an opportunity for me in the future. Therefore, I chose to apply for it at this time. But again, it goes back to some of our core beliefs. Have a little humility to say that may be over my head, but I'm driven enough to apply for it because I think someday I could, but today my ability is probably to be an FT or head doctor, whatever that may be, and target it towards what your abilities are.
That's great. So that's really paying attention to the job posting and what those required qualifications are, and really just being able to the self-awareness to kind of know that maybe there are some things I still need to learn before I could be at that level. So Drew, you were in a management trainee role. Tell us how you've been successful in your role. What's been the secret to your success at Five Rivers?
I think Matt hopefully stated it all. I hope I can say that most of those attributes that I have. I, the relationship building is a big piece of it. When you come into the company, you're one of 11 feed yards, and then it breaks down into you're one of 4 departments, and then you're one person in that department that is part of a team. And so coming in as an FT, that's the thing is, can you come in and be a contributing member of that team? And as your knowledge grows, then hopefully your influence with your relationships allows you to better lead those people to have a more successful team. And that hopefully snowballs to allow you to lead bigger teams and continue your growth process. Started as an FT in the cattle department. I was shipping and receiving manager. I was in cattle manager. From there, I went to be the yard department manager. And then the opportunity came about to be the assistant general manager here at Grant County. It takes those 3 things. You know, we found the book Smart, Hungry, and Humble.
It's good.
And it's not even an analogy. It's a great relationship in what we look for and what values we ask people to have. And it takes knowing when to apply each one of those in all different situations. And I think that's the thing is, as a college student, most of us don't have the world application to apply those 3 things in different situations, because there's some situations where you do need to be smart and step up and say, I know what to do. But then there are situations where you need to be humble enough to say, I think I know what to do, but y'all guys have more experience. And I may be the
That's good.
department manager, but I need to humble myself to say, you guys have more experience than I do. So let's go that direction. So those 3 things, smart, hungry, and humble. And I hope y'all go look up the book and read it a little bit. But those are 3 things that we talk about quite a bit as a company, as far as when you go through a situation of, you know, did you bull through it? Did you think through it? Or did you stop and take a step back and figure out the best approach to it? So those would be the 3 things I think that as you're coming in as an FT, that you need to have those attributes. And then again, Matt said it, but a passion. Our days are not easy. Our teams make our days fun, but they're not easy on a day-to-day basis. And so you need to have it in your head before you come in. I'm going to work hard, but I'm going to work on teams that I enjoy the people I'm around, and they're going to work just as hard as I am, and we're all working for the same goal. And you know what? It may be a storm, and you may be there for 48 hours, but at the end of 48 hours, you had more fun working your tail off than you did doing anything else that you could do in life.
That's so good. Okay, it's a Patrick Lencioni book, right? Is
Yep.
that the author? Humble, Hungry, and Smart, right?
The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni
Okay.
is the book we reference. Yeah,
So
it's Hungry,
good.
Humble, and Smart. Yeah.
It is a great book. Okay, so we will make sure that we tag that on our YouTube channel for our students so that they could purchase that if they would like. So, so you mentioned briefly about the interview process, that right now in these times when we're trying to limit and social distance and all of that. So typically that would involve like a phone interview at first, and then perhaps a Teams interview, and then will you invite them then to the yard to meet with the staff? How does that usually work for y'all?
Yeah, the initial piece is when people apply, we typically follow up with a phone interview just to, somebody. It might be somebody specific from a yard. I might do it. Just an initial person's going to reach out and make contact and do some follow up, and we will assess and evaluate resumes. prior to those follow-ups, and who we're gonna follow up and interview and spend time with. And so potential reference checks and things like that as well. But then after we do an initial and we feel like someone's a good character fit, I mean, that's kind of the first thing we're looking for is, are they a good character fit and do they have passion for this industry? And then what we'll do is we'll go to today, probably more typically versus going to the yard just yet, but we'll probably have the management team from a yard, or in some cases when we've got somebody that's looking at multiple locations, we'll get some of our GMs and AGMs from multiple locations, and we do a Teams video interview, and we'll get multiple people on there. We'll have the candidate join us, and we'll do a team interview. And then if we want to move to the next step with that candidate, it could potentially be another video, and it'll be the management group from that feed yard location that's interested in hiring that individual, and the team there, the management team, will interview that individual. And then before final, and especially if the candidate's really interested in it, we would tend to bring them on site, let them meet the team face to face, let them tour the facility and get a feel for what that looks like. And then final offers will probably are potentially just made after that. And so that's kind of that walking process of getting them exposed to people. In normal circumstances, we kind of copied our process after the NFL combines. We call it the Five Rivers Combines, and we get a group of management together and we bring candidates in, and there's typically a dinner, and then there's typically some follow-up interviews with a larger group of management from the company. And then we make offers based off that, but we probably spend 24 to 36 hours with a candidate, bring them into the locations, multiple candidates, and have them present and interview and do all those kind of things and tour the facilities, and just spend as much time as we can with them to get to know them. So most of our time now spent with them is virtual until the end, and getting them to know them from that side of things.
So you've talked a lot about core values and so forth at your company. So of course, in the interview process, you're looking for those qualities. But just based on your experiences, Matt and Drew, just could you tips for our students, things not to do in interviews? Could you give us, just based on your experience, some advice for our students?
I think this is a digital age, and probably even more now it's emphasized of, I'm going and I'm looking for any information that I can find on you most of the time before I even call you. And that being said, your social media is the very first impression that gets made on most of us. So I'm not saying don't have a social media, but I'm saying manage it. And if the first thing that pops up is you partying and all of that, how dedicated are you going to be to being a good part of our team? So make sure that your social media profile portrays the right picture that you're trying to sell yourself. You can make it private, and maybe it's just me being a little skeptical, but if you make it private, then I wonder, why is it private? What can you not show me? That's up to you. It may be best, if you don't think you can manage it, to make it private, but be aware that every employer is going and looking at your social media, typing in your name and figuring out something about you right off the bat.
Good.
It's when we interview you, we're going to call and set up an initial interview, and it's okay to say, hey, now's not the best time. Can we set it up for this certain date? Don't feel like you have to, because we called, you have to stop everything and do something that's inconvenient for you, or not at the right time, that you're distracted or things. So set it up at a time that's convenient for you. We realize that we're calling you cold out of the blue. So set it up at a time that's convenient for you, that you can eliminate distractions, and you can give us your full attention and have things set up the best way possible. Have some questions ready for us. Again, that just shows that you went and you looked at the company and you know what we're about, and you are interested enough in us that you have questions. There's nothing worse than getting to the end of it and people being like, so where are all your feed yards? Don't ask me a question that you can easily Google and it's the first thing that comes up. Do a little research and ask a question that's a little more educated.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a lot to add. Sorry, Drew. I'd
No.
reiterate what he said is, I'll be pretty blatant and honest in terms of, again, that when a candidate applies, I'm more than likely the first two places I'm going to are LinkedIn and Facebook to just see what their profile looks like out there, and just what they're posting, and hopefully in all that you see what they're passionate about. They take pictures and equate with, post things that they enjoy, what they love doing, and so you see what that looks like from our standpoint, right? If we see people that are heavy in the beef industry, and it could be showing, it may not be showing, or it could be horse equine type stuff, but it gives us a little bit of idea of what they're passionate about and what they spend their free time doing. And then their LinkedIn profile typically gives us some work history, whether it's even internships or them growing up and what they've done. And so we go out and look at that and see what they're talking about and what they're advocating for, and promoting and those kind of things. And so I think that's a place for us to see. And that ties back to, there are so many, the numbers are different today, that there's less and less young people growing up in production operations or coming to our universities and coming to the College of Ag programs with a background in agriculture and production agriculture. And so for us, that ties back to that passion piece. Where along the way did they find this passion that they want to be in the livestock production area and cattle feeding specifically and doing those kind of things? So we're exploring that, and just looking for their background and experience and what that passion looks like and what they're doing. And so I think, and further into their career, we're looking for things around loyalty and what ties them to that employer and what creates some loyalty to that employer, or is it 6 months here, 6 months there, and stepping stones along the way. And so we're just trying to encompass, and I'd reiterate what Drew said is, if you're really passionate about a job with us and not just, well, I'm going to apply here, they got a job. The first thing that tells us that is, what research have they done and what do they know about us? And, right smack on the very first homepage of our website is an 11-minute video about a career with Five Rivers. And if they probably haven't taken an opportunity to watch that, that gives us a first kind of perspective. If they haven't went to our website and just taken 11 minutes to even watch a video that talks about who we are and what we do and what we're passionate about.
Good advice. Okay, so we are hopeful that the rebound in the economy is going to come soon. And so just thoughts from you all on what our students can be doing right now to prepare for this hiring rebound that will eventually come. What's your advice for students about that?
I think any career experience they can get, even just, I think what would sell themselves, or just be a positive to any employer these days, is that in this crisis and in this critical time, that they expose themselves to go learn something. So even maybe it's not in their career fair, if it's another technical skill that helps them grow, if it's about interacting and collaborating and teamwork and working with people, it's just, to me, it's any experience that they can get. Or, I think we joked before we launched the call here, are we just sitting at home playing Xbox and involved in that standpoint, or watching social media 24/7? So I think it's what skill set are you still trying to advance and grow, whether paid or unpaid, whether it's working for somebody local or getting a real job, and going somewhere for an internship, or that. It's just, what are they continuing to do to grow and learn this summer? What, again, all kinds of opportunities to take online courses. And so what are they doing from a technical standpoint to learn a new technical skill or learn new information that relates to their career possibility and what they're looking to do? And so, polishing resume, working on interviews, all those kind of things are still things. And, back to your question about what can they be doing, I would encourage every student today to find some comfort in this right here. And that's by being able to do some video conferencing and talking to people by video, because I think this platform, a lot of times our initial screen was a phone interview, and I'm pretty confident now almost all of our initial screens now will be set up by video. The more we have to do it, the more comfortable we're getting, and the more we enjoy it, because we immediately get face to face with people, even though we're not in the same room. But we can sit and visit with people and read body language and see their expressions and things like that. So I think it's just people getting comfortable from this platform and being able to do this, and just continuing to advance whatever skill set and technical ability that they can is what I'd encourage them right now.
Yeah, do something. Because if we ask you in an interview, what did you do over the coronavirus, and you make the excuse that, well, it was a virus, I couldn't do anything. That's not a good answer. You know, find something that makes you more valuable, a better person, more employable, and get after it. And if that's working for the trash company, picking up trash on the side of the road because that's the job that was available, great. You can sell that as, I like to work hard, and I wanted to make money, and so I got after it. There's jobs out there to be had. It just may not be the one you want right now.
So you all are a great resource for our students who, if they want to learn more about, the cattle industry. Where would you tell them to go to learn something new about that, just to increase their knowledge? Let's say they didn't grow up in the ag industry, but they got involved in FFA and now they've, majored in ag, and so they just want to know more about that. What resources? Where would you direct students to go to learn something new about that?
From Drew can add to this, but I mean, a lot of us from cattle feeders have our own websites, and it's just about careers and that. There's opportunities to learn. I mean, that we also, a lot of us do our own social media stuff. So we've got a Five Rivers Facebook that we take more opportunity to tell our story and educate people about the cattle feeding industry and the beef industry in general. And so, you can look at a lot of the different cattle feeders across the organization. Look at the NCBA's, National Cattlemen Beef Association, and I think looking for those resources and going out and finding information that there's opportunities there to explore and learn, and then jobs and opportunities, whether it's a ranch or a stock or a cattle feeding company. There's opportunities to find some employment and go do that. There's opportunities to go, especially even through the universities, through their programs, realizing we're in a little bit different time frame right now, but being able to tour facilities and see the true operations and what goes on there. Now there's a lot of that stuff online available too, so that they can see it. I mentioned earlier our video, and it shows pictures and kind of talks about and video footage of what our jobs and what our people do. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities available online. And then the other thing is taking classes specifically to the beef industry, whether it's reproduction and genetics on up to cattle feeding and harvesting and those kind of things, but learning the different processes and what goes into from the cow-calf rancher to the harvesting and the end game of what we're trying to do. But lots of resources and opportunities to go out there.
Yeah, find somebody that has experience and just ask them questions and ask why, and ask them to be honest with you in their assessment of you in different situations, because if you don't, sometimes they're afraid, they don't want to hurt your feelings or step on your toes, but that's where a lot of us gained most of our experience was, right, somebody yelled at us and said, don't do that, or get out of the way, or whatever. And so find somebody and tell them you want to learn and you're willing to be yelled at and you're willing to get after it, and be willing to do anything, I guess would be my thing, because one of the most important jobs at the feed yard is washing water tanks. If we didn't wash water tanks, it would be one of the first things to impact our performance, impact the cattle, impact everything. But how many people are willing to go wash a water tank every day? So be willing to do anything, and you're going to grow and gain experience by getting after it.
Oh, goodness. You have told us so many great things. I'm going to give you a final opportunity if you have final thoughts that you'd like to share with our students, either about Five Rivers or just advice for them. And then we will see if anyone has any questions before we conclude.
I think the thing I'd add is these are crazy and unprecedented times that we're going through right now. But the one thing, and there might be students, maybe that view this, or people specifically that take a look at this that are outside of the ag deal. But what I would say is the agricultural industry is still as strong as ever, and it's needed, right? We've got people to feed and people to take care of, and the tide will turn, and there's going to be more opportunities to look for people and employ opportunities, and especially in the agricultural industry. And so, Drew said it may not be the perfect job you want day one. We realize that, but there's going to be opportunities. And so are you willing to to get in where you can and take advantage of those opportunities and start a career pathway. And then as things continue to progress, there's going to be more opportunities down the road. But, you know, we still are excited. We need people in the cattle industry. We need people in the ag industry. You know, things will continue to evolve and turn through this process, and just encourage people to remain positive and be positive and look for those opportunities. They might have to look harder today than they've ever had to look, but if those that are willing to do that, the opportunities will present themselves.
I don't know who will end up watching the videos and stuff, but I mean, as you go look at any of the major feeders that you can go look at, us, Cactus, Green Plains, any of them, we all feed cattle on a day-to-day basis. And what keeps people here and what drives people on a day-to-day is a passion for the cattle and a strong work ethic. If you don't have those two, then I would tell you to find another profession, because you won't last very long. And that's just being a little blunt and honest. But we want people that want to work hard and get after it and be a part of the industry. One of our biggest frustrations is people who think that that's what they want to do, and then 90 days in, they say, holy crap, this is a lot of work. Well, we want to be very upfront that, yes, it is a lot of work, but the teams that we have are great. The work that we put in is hard, and we love what we do at the end of the day. There is none of us in the management team that have been here for very long that don't say we love what we do every single day.
So good. Well, on behalf of our Career Services Office, I just want to give a special thanks to Five Rivers, just because you've invested a lot. You've come and done classroom presentations for us. And I know, Drew, you were on a panel for us at our networking event that we had in the fall. And so I just want to say thank you for giving back to WT, for investing in our students, and for caring enough to answer these questions, because the truth is there are a lot of people who don't know the things that you've just shared. And so we really appreciate your time today and just the expertise that you have to offer.
Amber and team, hey, thanks for including us and letting us be a part of this. We really appreciate it and enjoy it as well.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
y'all
you
for doing it. Yeah, we appreciate your time.